I was going to talk about. I decided I wanted to talk about Russell Wilson and Seattle Seahawks a few days ago, and little did I know that he was going to have an interview with Dan Patrick, where he was talking about expressing his frustrations with how many times he's been sacked and hit in his days in Seattle. They asked him about whether or not he's trust Seattle. He basically kind of said he's always trusted Seattle, but you can almost hear a little bit of apprehension in his voice that I don't know that he totally trusts Seattle's ability to bring in the personnel to contend for a championship. You know, he mentioned that the team needs to play better. He mentioned himself as well, but it was kind of second to his team, and the way it came off is kind of like people perceived him throwing his offensive line under the bus. I don't know if he's necessarily just talking about last season. I know people are going to focus on last season, but this is something I think that's been brewing because Russ has always kind of kept his real feelings to himself and always kind of been politically correct and answered questions the way everybody wants you to answer them, and be really strategic in how you're phrasing things. So this is the first time we've really seen Russ kind of express, I believe his lack of trust in maybe Pete Carroll and then management. DK Metcalf, after the season, kind of mentioned that, people were asking, okay, well, what happened to y'all the second half of the year? He said, man, they figured us out. We were either run the football and just chuck bombs all day long, right? The offense wasn't versatile. So, if you know that, okay, well, we can just run cover 3. All right, we have 3 deep guys, 2 corners and a safety, or however you want to run it. You can drop 2 safeties and 1 cornerback, however you want to do it, to run your cover 3, and we just wait on them to get there. And so I know that ESPN has kind of been tracking the pass blocking rate or blocking rate, for offensive linemen. So last season they said they had a pass blocking success rate of 61.9%, which was ninth in the NFL. It's measuring their ability to hold their blocks for 2.5 seconds. They do that for pass rushes as well. Their pass rush success rate, right? Do they get to the quarterback within 2.5 seconds? So the issue with Russell Wilson, yes, some of those sacks that he's taken is his fault. He's taken 394 sacks in his 9-year career. I think it's the most over that 9-year span since Randall Cunningham. And last season, I think he took 47 sacks, which was third to only Deshaun Watson and Carson Wentz. So he's averaged over 40 sacks per season for the better part of his career. Some of that's on him, yes, but some of it is on the scheme. And here's what people have to understand. Russell Wilson's only about 5'10", 5'11". So it's not like a Tom Brady that, okay, well, I see over the offensive line that's anywhere from 6'4" to 6'7", and then when my release point is above the offensive lineman's helmet, and so I can just get it out quick, and chalk it the short routes over the middle. Russell Wilson has defined passing lanes, so he cannot play quarterback the same way as Tom Brady. And if most of your passing game is to try to run on first and second down and chalk it deep on third down, well, guess what? It takes receivers time to get 15, 20, 30 yards down the field. Those are longer developing plays. So part of it is that, so you have to understand part of the reason why Russ holds on to it and he's escaping the pocket. Some of it is he's waiting for guys in cover. He's looking for windows. Some of it is guys aren't open. The defense has got the right call on that play. So he's got to buy time and wait for the receivers to try to escape and come back to the ball and find a hole so he can chalk it. So I think it's part of it, yes, is Russell Wilson. A lot of it, though, is scheme, bad offensive scheme. And then there is some of it is offensive line. So it's kind of 3-layered. I do think one step in the right direction was them hiring Shane Walden. He is from the Sean McVay coaching tree. He's been the passing game coordinator for the Rams for the past few years. And what do we know about that offense? I spoke earlier about it. They run a lot of bunch formations, a lot of 11 personnel. I know the Rams been running a lot of 12 personnel, but that was because of Jared Goff and his lack of ability to to push the ball down the field consistently without play action, and just his lack of I would say off schedule plays. He doesn't have the ability to get anything off schedule because he's just a pocket passer. He doesn't have this capability. So we know in that offense, in the Rams system, they run a lot of bunch formations. Again, I mentioned it's a little bit harder to scheme up and take away a receiver when you're doing that. You're running them in motion. You know, you're trying to pre-snap. You're trying to gauge whether it's man or zone. And then they like to be balanced. They involve the running back in the passing game. They run a lot of screens. They run wide receiver reverses, right? So I think that's one step in the right direction. I also think they do need to try to invest more in the offensive line. One issue, though, is they traded 2 first-rounders away from Jamal Adams on defense. So they're not going to have a first round, I believe, these next two years. So that's an issue. They might need to look at it in free agency to address that. And defensively, this hasn't been a top 10, top 15 defense for about 3 years. I think going back to 2016 and 2015 was the last time they had maybe like a top 10 defense. And so a lot of it has fell on Russell Wilson's shoulders. The running backs haven't been able to stay healthy. You know, Chris Carson is a good running back, but every year he misses at least 3 or 4 games because he gets banged up. And so that's another issue that they got to look at. And they want this power running game. But again, you don't have Marshawn Lynch back there anymore. You know, I know Pete Carroll, you know, keeps trying to live in that world, but Marshawn's not coming back. The Legion of Boom is not coming back. And you're going to have to improve your defensive line. You need guys that can win one-on-ones. Your linebackers are good. You know, Bobby Wagner has been one of the best linebackers in the league in his career, and you can make a case he's been the best, if not the second best, among the linebacker the past few seasons. I think Devin White is coming for him, but KJ White had a career year this past season. I think they're good at safety, but they got to improve cornerback, and they got to get defensive linemen that can consistently win their one-on-ones, because in that defense, they like to run a lot of zone. They'll run some cover 1 man, but they like to run and some robber, but they like to run a lot of cover 3, and they don't really like to send extra guys to blitz to get to the quarterback. So they like to drop a lot of guys in coverage. Well, that puts a lot of pressure on the D-line. Those guys got to be able to get pressure with their front 4. So those are some issues I see with them. But hopefully they can go on ahead and address those issues and improve, because I do think Russell Wilson is one of the better quarterbacks in this league, and I'd like to see him get another crack at trying to compete for a championship. So, you know, hopefully he can kind of mend some fences, hopefully, and created too big of a problem with some of his offensive line with what he said. You know, some guys may view that as disrespectful. But, you know, Russell Wilson is like a lot of these quarterbacks. They're looking at Tom Brady, went to Tampa Bay. You're like, man, I want to be able to make some personnel suggestions, you know, about, you know, hey, why don't we bring this guy in? You know, these guys are thinking about their legacy, because on one hand, we want them to be good soldiers and to be loyal and to say the right things, but yet we want to hold them to a fire and put all the blame on them when they don't accumulate championships, but yet their team is not putting all the right pieces around them to succeed. So, you know, you can't have it both ways, you know. So, you know, hopefully for Russ, man, things will look up.